Hi, guys. Welcome to Own Your Essence, the podcast where healing meets empowerment. I'm your host, April DeMille, a psychic medium and a life coach specializing in grief, trauma, and toxic relationship recovery. This is a space for deep conversations, powerful transformations, and raw healing. Each week, we'll dive into soul centered topics like psychic mediumship, the supernatural, metaphysical wisdom, emotional grief, addiction, mental health, spiritual wellness, and self discovery. Through inspiring interviews and personal insights, this podcast is here to spread awareness, spark connection, and support your healing journey. If you're ready to set boundaries, reclaim your confidence, and step into your true power, you're in the right place. Let's own your essence together. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Own Your Essence podcast, where we get to have deep transformational conversations with some of our favorite people. I am your host, April DeMille, and as you may have noticed, Lee is not co-hosting, and he will not be co-hosting moving forward. Love the guy to death. He's one of my best buddies, so I get to see him all the time anyway. But he and I have gone different directions. He's got other things to occupy his time, and I'm still very persistent on the podcast right now. So it will just be me as a host moving forward. I think that Lee will sometimes come on as a guest co-host and just to come shoot the shit and say hi because he's awesome and we like to have fun like that. But moving forward, it is most of the time just going to be me as the host. So there's that piece of news. But also, Lee is going to be with us today, just not as a co-host. So I'm going to actually introduce him as our guest today. So please help me welcome Lee Walczak. Um, it is my pleasure to introduce the greatest gift to humanity ever. Um, but my buddy Lee is here. And so, just so you know, Lee is a psychic medium as well as an intuitive mentor with over 10 years of experience. So, please, let's give a drum roll for Lee. Here he comes. 1 second. Oh, let me put my phone down. I get distracted. Hi. So
Hi.
I was just telling our viewers, our listeners, that you have transitioned out of podcast co-hosting, but that you will still grace us with your presence here and there just for fun. Um,
Well, yeah.
but I was also just reading out your introduction. Oh, hold on, let me pull this back up. Yes, the greatest gift to humanity ever.
That wasn't supposed to be public, but
Oh, but
yeah,
it was.
yeah,
Oh no, but it was. It's so great. I had to add it in there. I was like, luckily for
yeah.
me, he's my best buddy and I get to see him all the time anyway.
I should have seen that coming too. Yeah,
Yeah, you should have, for
I should
sure.
have.
And I was like drum rolling you too, so it's all good.
Yeah,
So you know the drill, buddy. You've been here, so
I
maybe
have.
let's give our listeners a little bit of background about who you are and what you're doing in the world, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting being in the passenger seat of this
I bet.
instead of the other way around. So I'm Lee Walczak. I am a psychic medium. I've worked as a psychic medium for I think over 11 years now, which is crazy to me to even say at this point, but so somewhere over a decade, let's just say that.
Okay.
And I also I call myself an intuitive guide for others. I just help people to develop and to navigate their own intuitive strengths and awarenesses. I also help people with mediumship and developing their mediumship and all that fun stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing in the world. That the intuitive kind of guidance part didn't really start until maybe a few years ago. But again, the mediumship I've been doing for a while now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. So just happy to be here in the passenger seat.
In the passenger, you're not driving today.
No,
Well, I already know a lot of stuff about you, but our audience doesn't. So I'm going to uh, I think let's just kind of go backwards in history here and talk about like how this began for you. Like what was probably the most impactful moment that you were like, holy shit, I can do these things. Like, what is happening? So, yeah, if you want to start with that story.
It's a good way to put it too. Like one of those holy crap moments.
Yeah.
Like I can do this. Um, I'll start off just very briefly saying I've always had kind of a leaning towards knowing that there was something maybe more than our physical reality. I just didn't know what that was or what words to put to it. And um, I grew up very intuitive without really knowing that I was intuitive. But I think one of the defining moments for me was when I was in my earlier 20s. I want to say 21, but now I don't know. Looking back, I'm like, what age was it? But I had been out regardless the night before with a few friends of mine, and one of my friends started talking about how she felt like she was a medium, and I was so into it. I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. I love mediumship and all that stuff. Even though I didn't know about it, but like I love the idea of that being a thing. Um, and anyway, at one point, she started talking to one of my other friends, and she was like, "Oh, I feel like one of your departed loved ones is like here with us behind you at the moment." And I thought it was weird because I was like, I thought I saw something behind her a second ago, and I didn't know it was like this weird kind of, mist or I don't know
Just
exactly.
like a hazy or
Yeah, like a
okay.
like a kind of white haze. I still to this day see those things sometimes. I'm sure you can relate too, but
Oh yeah.
um, so I was like, that's weird. I like it right behind her. Interesting. Okay. And then I kind of just let it go and we enjoyed the rest of our night. And we were out all night. It was like a weekend or something. So the next day I was trying to take a nap because I was tired from being out the night before and what it's like to be in your early 20s.
For
Uh,
real.
I know. Um, so anyway, I was trying to nap just, for a little bit and I I don't know how to put this next part, but I just knew with every cell of my being somehow that the friend, not the one who was saying that she felt like she was a medium, but the other one, um, I felt like her uncle was trying to communicate with me. And of course, there was this piece of my brain analytically that was like, oh, okay, like let me take a nap. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this doesn't, but it would not go away. The feeling would not go away at all. So I kept getting this feeling of like, text her, and I'm like, I'm going to text her and say,
And
what
say
am I going
what?
to say?
Yeah, like what do you
Like,
do?
we had never had this sort of conversation, nothing. So I'm like, no, like I don't want to. So, but it wouldn't leave, and so finally I was like, fine, I'll just against my well, I was gonna say against my better judgment, but really it was in my highest judgment at the time that I
Yeah.
did text her, but against my logical mind. Um, and she was open to hearing what I had to say, and a few little things were coming through, but definitely not enough to really convince my pragmatic side that anything was really taking place. And then I started getting a sense of like, call her now. And I'm like, so first I'm going to text her and now we're going to call her. Really? Like, I don't, no. And
You're
so I
like,
did.
this is a terrible idea.
Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean call her?
Yeah.
So I text her though. I'm like, can I call you really fast? And she's like, well, I'm on my way to work in about 20 minutes, but sure, call me. And we got on the phone, and that's when I felt her grandmother come in. And the only thing I knew was that her grandmother had passed. We didn't speak about it. I figured, like, if she ever wanted to talk about it, she would talk about it. I never met her grandmother except for once in passing. We said hi to each other, like that very brief kind of interaction. Um, and I just started feeling like flooded with information, like pictures in my head, just feelings of like knowing different things. And it was just like words just started kind of coming out of my mouth a little bit. I'm just like, I feel like this and this and this thing, and very kind of specific things about,
Yeah.
her grandmother and who she was and who was in the hospital room with her at the end and like who was waiting outside in the hall. And like, so it was definitely, I couldn't explain it. And
Yeah,
the
and
thing,
clearly information that you wouldn't have known otherwise.
right. I'm like, and it felt like me, but it felt like it was also coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, I took note of that. And I think the things that really got me where I started saying things that now we were on the phone, it wasn't like a video call or anything like that. I could just hear her voice. And I started telling her things that her grandmother was saying, but that she was doing in the moment, kind of in memory of her grandmother. I'm like, I feel like your grandmother's like kind of touching the underside of your face or something, whatever it was. And she's like, she's really emotional at this point. She's like, oh my God, I just did that in memory of her because, uh, she used to do that all the time, like kind of cut my chin almost. And she seems to remember this part. I don't really, but she does to this day. She swears that had mentioned like, that she was holding her sweater and like, sniffing it. And I said something like, why don't you clean the sweater or something like that? And she hadn't washed it. But in the moment, she says that she was holding it. And so anyway, long story short, I walked away and I was like, there's just no way that that could all be coincidental. Like I couldn't have known those things. I knew too much,
Right.
and and then I was doing things, or I was saying things, excuse me, that she was doing in the moment, kind of in honor and memory of, and I couldn't physically see her. So I'm like, something just happened, you know.
Right.
Uh, and I joke, but it really kind of happened this way that ever since that day, I kind of left that. I left that situation and I was like, okay, I guess I'm a medium. This makes a lot of sense. Like, who wants a reading? Like, and I started doing readings for people like almost right away after
Really?
that. Yeah.
So I didn't even actually know that part.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
news to me because I feel like sometimes there's more of a lengthier transition, maybe sometimes. Maybe not always, but like I know for me it was a little lengthier. It was definitely a lot lengthier transition. Um, but I never even knew that about you. I didn't realize that you were like diving in head first. Like, cool, we're doing this
Yeah.
now. Okay.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Wow.
Like, I think part of it was curiosity because I was curious like what's happening. Like, I want to explore whatever this is, but I knew enough at that point in my life that I knew what a medium was. Again, I didn't really know the ins and outs of mediumship or, like the clairs and things like that or how they
Yeah.
can, but I knew, what it meant.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm not even sure all those things matter because that's just like societal level labels just to give us
right.
some understanding. But like just on a natural organic wave, you're just moving through it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really what happens. Like I
Yeah.
just organically moved through it. But I think I was curious and I was kind of like, what else can I channel for people? And it just made sense to me. I walked away and I was like, it just makes sense that I'm a medium. Like it explains so many things
Yeah.
in my life.
Like all the pieces were kind of connecting all the dots and you're like, oh, okay. So well, I do have a question. So if you just kind of fully embraced it and just started doing readings, were you like all in and like you had transitioned from like normal day jobs to full on mediumship or like did that part take a minute and you just did readings like part time here and there? Like how did that?
That part took a lot longer. I
Okay.
did free readings for people for years.
Okay.
The charging part was very difficult for me to kind of navigate, and I think it was only like 5 years ago that I finally started charging people for readings. But
I
um,
feel like that's about when I started. Wait, 2018, 19 is when I started too. So,
yeah, mine was probably like late 2019, 2020, maybe something around there. But
okay.
um, I think maybe 2020 because it was right before COVID and all that happened. Um, but anyway, yeah. So that part was different. I, I realized I think at a certain point that I couldn't give all of the energy without kind of receiving some sort of an exchange because I mean, I was looking at it and
Right.
there were points where I was working like two jobs in like retail and things like that. And anyone who's worked retail knows you were in people's energy fields all day long in a
All
very
the
specific
time.
way. um,
Yeah. That's
you know,
actually, I want to come back to that point later.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so I was doing that and then I'd be in people's living rooms, channeling their departed loved ones, which was great. It was a part of the process and helping me grow, but I'd be there for like 4 hours sometimes, and so I'm
How
working.
exhausting too, though.
Yeah, so a lot of it, like I felt kind of drained. So there was just this kind of turning point where I was like, okay, I have to figure this other financial, energetic piece out to all of this. But that took a while. And at first, it really, like at the very beginning, it really was just me kind of doing readings for people that I knew or was acquainted with, but that I didn't know much about in terms of their departed loved ones. So it was like, it made sense enough for me that I was like, okay, well, I know that I can like tell this person and see if they're open. I feel like they'll probably be open. And I don't know enough about them where it would kind of interfere with any sort of a reading. So I was doing that for a little while. And
Yeah.
then word of mouth, people talk and things kind of spread quickly. And then I had people that I didn't know that were kind of coming to me and being like, hey, I heard, you did a reading for this person that, like, can you do one for me? And I was like, okay, so it kind of snowballed a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. I'm sitting here kind of shocked going, I didn't even know that piece about you.
Yeah.
So, Do you, what would you say was the full like catalyst for change when it came to leaving the human world jobs and going into, I say human world because like I don't
Yeah.
more whatever your typical 9 to 5 is, 9 to 5 grind, whatever that is, right? So from that to full on like mediumship and working for yourself, was there a specific like catalyst or turning point for you that
Hmm.
happened?
That's a good question. I don't know if there was a specific moment necessarily. I think it kind of unfolded quickly, but it unfolded right around that time. I think that I started charging people. I had dealt
Okay.
with a lot of health issues in 2018, 2019, and like, chronic kind of things that were going on. And through that, and through kind of learning about different modalities of healing and things like that, I think I really learned that I had to start being more receptive to different things, and I had to start being more honest with myself about different things, and really allowing myself to, yeah, to receive in certain ways. And I
Yeah.
think that translated for me into like, okay, well, let me start here, and like, I'll go public with this, because for a while, for years, I was not public about this. Like, I would tell people, like, can you like keep this under the radar a little bit,
Yeah.
because I had people in my life that I was terrified of knowing, that, I was terrified of them finding out that I was a medium. I'm like, what are they going to think? They're going to think I'm crazy. Like, they're going to,
Were you
um,
ever at any point in your life like tormented or treated poorly because of things like that?
not because of mediumship. I mean, maybe, what we tend to experience in our human experience about like being different in some way, because I've always been kind of different in some way. I've always been that archetype,
It's
which
my
I learned.
favorite part about you.
Yeah, thanks. But no, I think, you learn kind of quickly, like that sort of archetype, you know, some people don't love that, when you're growing
Yeah.
up, and even adults, I remember I had adults around me that, just seem not to like me for whatever reason. And I'm like, I'm a kid,
Well,
like, what are,
it's actually, I'm glad you brought that up because it's the healer in you.
right,
So,
right.
right. So, like all of us in the healing world know exactly what that kickback's from.
Yeah.
We know that when our presence is enmeshed with the presence of others, we naturally trigger certain things to come to the surface so they can be looked at and released and healed and transmuted and all the things. So the way that translates for us is they look at us like a problem. Oh, I don't
Right.
like this problem. I don't like what this person's energy does to me.
Yeah.
And then we go, oh, well, we're effective.
So let me
You
mirror this
hate,
back to you.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm sorry that you hate me, but you're welcome.
yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah.
welcome. I'm actually doing you a favor.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
welcome. Yeah, so
that's too funny.
yeah, I love that actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it really well. I think that that is the case. Like,
Yeah.
we're naturally kind of mirroring things back to people, and not everyone is ready to look at themselves.
Yeah.
And so then that becomes like a projection on their part of like, well, I just don't like you in my space.
Yeah.
And I get it now, more so back then I was kind of like, why is this a thing? But I
Why
think
is this person a dick? But like now we
yeah,
know.
yeah, like why don't you seem to just like me for no reason? You know what I mean? So
Right.
it was weird to navigate. Well, not weird, but it was challenging, I guess, in a lot of ways. But so I think I carried that sort of wounding around, like this. I just related it to being different in some way,
Yeah.
not,
But it can be like a worth wound, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
that could be showing up too when it was like asking for the exchange that you felt was necessary too. And so
Oh
maybe
yeah.
those was that some of the pieces that you were looking at when you were making those transitions?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
had to kind of get to a certain point too. Like, you have to kind of look at some things. And I mean, I'm still constantly evaluating certain things like that about, does this exchange still feel good for me? And
Yeah.
am I allowing myself to actually receive things, Um, so yeah, but but for years, like I said, I didn't even tell certain people in my life about the mediumship. I was terrified of them. No, and these are some of like my closest
Well, and
friends
it's
even
funny to
still.
me because I know you like I've known you for I think we've been pretty close for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, because I want to say we started getting close in at first in 2020, the
Yeah.
summer of 2020. And it's just kind
Mhm.
of grown since then. And so for me to hear these parts of you, I can't even picture.
I
what
know.
that looks like when it's like, don't tell anyone I'm a medium. And I'm like,
No.
what? Like that
Yeah,
seems so foreign to me, you
I
know?
know.
But
I
I get it
yeah.
because I was in that same uh I was sort of in a similar situation before because I didn't even come out publicly as a psychic medium until I was 38.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I'd spent all those years hiding it, repressing it, trying to give it the fuck back because I hated it, like all the things that I could possibly think of to ignore it. That's what I was doing. So it's not far-fetched. It's just
Yeah.
I've known you for so long as like these versions of ourselves that I can't even
Yeah.
picture that part. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. Which which is interesting. So I appreciate you even saying that because to me that does translate, into like I have evolved and
How
allowed myself
far?
to,
Yeah,
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 into this version of who's speaking now.
yeah.
Um,
Because
and
that
it's
one seems so foreign now. It's like I don't even
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Well, now it's like I totally like you're kind of saying, I embrace it completely where I'm like, yeah, I'm a medium and all the thing.
Yeah.
I will say I still do have some human moments, like when someone asks me what I do, like sometimes it's difficult to come out like meeting a new person or something and be like, well, I'm a medium or whatever. Sometimes, I still find that sort of thing challenging, but if you're in my orbit now as a friend or as an acquaintance or whatever, you're in my orbit in any way in that sense, then this is what I do. And I will say I don't actually talk about it with everybody in my life. I know that some people in my life that I care greatly about don't really know what to do with it. And they
Yeah.
respect it. We've had conversations where they're like, I honor that you're doing this. Like, I don't know if it's my thing,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that because I
Yeah.
have people in my life that I can talk to about it, and that so it's not something that I even talk to everyone about,
Yeah.
in my life now. Um, but yeah, it's interesting just the different kind of shapes and forms that takes in my
Well,
life.
and I think that we find our tribe because I have family members that fucking love me and are so supportive of me, and they will um, hear me out when I'm discussing certain things, but that doesn't mean that they really know how to show up in that conversation because
Right.
it's not necessarily a part of where they're at. But they
Yeah.
don't shame me for it. They don't like
Yeah.
go, oh, she's lost her fucking mind or she's off her rocker. It's none of that. Like,
Yeah.
it's none of that stuff. And to the point that um, I've had people ask me, so just for context to our listeners, I do private nanny work. And I've had people ask me, do your nanny families know what you do? And I'm like, yep, uh-huh, all of them.
Mm.
Every
Yeah.
nanny family I've ever worked with since I've come out publicly when I was 38 has always known.
Mm.
They know that I'm a psychic medium. They know that I work in the ethers in different realms. They know that I also do a lot of coaching. And so I am blessed in the sense that I get the families that are super like, yes, that's our girl. Like, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but there was a time when I also um lived in the shadows. So it's definitely a process.
Yeah, it's a never unfolding process, I think, like I said. Um but yeah, and I love that they actually know what you do and everything because that, is authentic to you.
Yeah.
And if it resonates with you, to speak that to them, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
And also, like, let's be real. Why do kids and animals love me?
yeah, right. Yeah,
Like,
they sense yeah,
yeah, it's like, let's be real here.
yeah, that energy. So
Yeah, for
um
sure.
but
So,
yeah, no.
so
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask you another question. I was going to shift gears for a moment if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Have you had, I'm sure this has happened, so I'm just going to ask you if you've had certain readings, like maybe one or two that have been super impactful for you, like definitely left a mark, and that you could share some of those
Oh yeah.
moments.
Yeah, 100%. I've had a lot of impactful reads. Some I probably don't even remember, and not because they weren't impactful, but because I always tell people, it's so much information that I would have to hold if I remembered everything.
Yep.
Because at this point, I don't even know what I'm up to as far as reading. I don't know if we're in the thousands, if we're in the hundred. I have no idea. Like
Yeah. You're like,
I
who's
couldn't
keeping
tell you.
count?
Yeah, couldn't even tell you.
Yeah.
Probably somewhere closer to the thousands, to be honest. But um, yeah, but I'm like trying to actually logically think about it, and some things like don't even bother. But yeah, so impactful moments. There have been, I think, a lot of them. I do you want me to actually tell some of the stories?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't give client information, but like
Yeah,
if there's a couple stories that, were super loud and,
yeah,
something you're able to share, then yeah, I think our audience would love to hear that.
yeah. Well, I do have permission from certain people to share certain things. So,
Okay.
because I have gone over this
And
before where I'm
also,
like,
just so you know, like we can talk about the times that you've tapped in around me, even accidentally, because I didn't even ask you to the first time. Like it was just one of those things that it happened. And I think I was just like, oh yeah,
yeah.
if I even remember that correctly, because I don't know. But we can talk about that too.
Yeah. Either way. But I'd be happy to share some stories too. That's fine.
Yeah, I want to hear
I
the stories.
I do. Yeah, I have quite a few. So I've been given permission to share this one because I've talked about it on like my Facebook and stuff before. But I remember this was a really kind of defining moment, I think, in my mediumship, where I remember I had it was like a Sunday or something. And it was just one of those days that like I was having a hard time getting going with anything. I'm just kind of like lagging a little bit. I'm like, oh, just going through the motions and sort of, Um, and all of a sudden I feel this energy of a younger male come in. And I'm like, okay, hi, and sometimes they do that and I welcome
Mhm.
it. I do have boundaries around it, but like, I welcome it at certain points.
Yeah.
And he just starts telling me this information about how he passed away in this car accident and how he was the only one driving and how it wasn't like slippery out or anything like that. Like it was just like this pure kind of accident that happened, and I was the only one in the car, and um, all these different things that he wants to like connect with his mom. There's some sort of significance about someone speaking to his mom recently, and uh, something else about like a tattoo that someone did like. So anyway, I'm like writing down all this information because I'm like, okay, like that's a lot. Like
It's
I'm
like
like,
overwhelming amounts of information.
yeah, I think I had to tell him to slow down at one point. I'm like, can you
Yeah.
please slow down just so I can kind of translate it. And then he gives me also the Elton John song, "The Sun Going Down." I didn't even the sun going down on me. I didn't even know who sang that. To be honest, I had to look it up. Like I was
Yeah.
like, I think it's Elton John
I
in the
have to
song.
do that a lot too, where I'm like, I don't even know what this is. And then you have to go like look shit up. It's so funny.
Yeah, yeah. Like I know the song, but like who's singing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Apparently it's Elton
I
John.
didn't know. Yeah, I didn't even know that Elton John sang a song like that. So news to me.
Yeah, I think it's Elton John and someone else, but I can't remember. But anyway, so I wrote all the information down, and then I was like, okay, well, who are you here for? Like, who are you trying to connect with? Like, what's happening? And he's like, I want you to go and do a Facebook Live tonight, because I still do Facebook Lives actually, but
Right.
he's like, I'm for someone on there. And I'm like, okay. I don't even think I was planning on it, but I'm like, I can. I think I have the time, like
Yeah.
we can explore it. And he's like, it's going to be for someone new to your page. Like they're not going to, and I have a great little um, handful of, community of people that kind of comes around. Like I expect, not expect, but like, they pop up on my live a lot and I'm always happy to see them and all the things. Um, expect was probably the wrong word, but like,
No, but you do have a nice little following
yeah,
of and a great little support group, and you do show up on your lives, I think like what, twice a week to do
yeah.
like readings and things like that. And so it's been something been consistent with for a long time. So
Yeah, yeah. So, but the soul was like, no, this is going to be for someone new, and I was like, okay, cool. So I kind of just, it was such a strong feeling of like, I even went to the grocery store before I went on the live, and he was kind of with me, and I'm like, okay, let's check it out, like let's see. Um, so I went on the live, and I basically like I welcomed everyone in, but then I kind of, went through the information. I'm like, I don't know who the soul is for necessarily, but like, and I start off with just a few bits of the information where I'm like, I feel like this is going to be for someone new to my page. I don't know. Um, and I was like, this younger male passed in a car accident. I feel like he was the only one in the car, the only one he was driving, only one in the car at the time. And there were two new people that came on the page that night. So only two, you know. And one lady was like, I can take everything that you're saying. Like, I had a friend, and he passed in a car accident. He was the only one driving. And It wasn't slippery. He wasn't going fast, anything like that, which is what he had told me. Um, and and I was like, okay, so let me kind of bring him in. So I went over some of the other information that he was giving me some as we were kind of speaking. Um, I can't remember if the tattoo piece was as I was speaking or if I wrote it down previously, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's talking about like this tattoo that, like you got, but you're not super happy with. I feel like it's like kind of like an impulsive thing and it kind of looks a little off kilter almost like there's something in her words, not mine, but well, she said a different word, but she's like, yeah, it's crap, LOL. Like, and she's like, it was like a really impulsive kind of thing. And, so he's like telling me like all these things and about the mom. I was like, did you recently just speak to his mom like within the last few days? And she's like, yeah, I still keep in contact with her. I just because he's saying, I know you talked to my mom. Please let her know, like I'm okay if she's open to this, and like all of this information, and so much of it that I had written down before that was making sense. By the way, when I had no reference of who I was going to talk to. I didn't have a client sitting in front of me. I didn't hear anyone's, I couldn't hear anyone's voice because I didn't have, I couldn't see anyone's body language, like nothing. Like it was just me, and then the soul, that came in.
Right.
So I found that fascinating where I'm like, there wasn't even a person yet that was on the receiving end of this, but the soul came in. And then the thing that still kind of really gets me about the whole thing that kind of wrapped everything up with a nice little bow. Uh, I had said, does that song, the sun going down on it, like, does that mean anything to you? And then she typed in like all capitals, like, oh my God, in the comments. Because I wasn't on video, like this was just through comments. And I was like, every time someone says that, like that you hit on something, but
You
you're
hit a
like, what did
mark.
I say?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, what is it? What did I say? But I feel, it's like I feel like there's a significance to this. And she said I was in the car with him originally, and he dropped me off. And after he dropped me off, he had passed about 10 minutes later from what we can kind of figure out. But she was like, that song was the song on the radio as I was leaving him, and as I got out of the car, like that was the last song that I remember hearing on the radio as I got out of the car. And then about 10 minutes later, he passed away. So
Oh,
that was
that
like the
is
last.
like, oh,
So yeah, so it was really significant for her though, because it was
yeah.
something that obviously she really remembered, and the last song associated with seeing him and all the things. And anyway, she had said to me, which I thought was, the point of everything, but like how much peace it brought her. And then she did say she talked to the mom after at one point, and like the mom didn't want to hear it first, but then she was like, okay, like let me look at the video, and apparently it brought her a lot of peace,
Yeah.
which again is the idea, right?
That's the whole point. Yeah.
But what I found fascinating was that it was just this like list of information that was all resonant for this person, and even down to like it would be someone that knew at the time that came on, and there was only two new people, and she was the only
Well,
one
and
that
even the song, like, there's no way you could have just,
yeah.
how would you have ever known that? Like, how would you have
No,
ever
right.
known any of it? Like, clearly, we're working in worlds that, and through a connection that is, um, not your average, I guess. Well, actually, maybe it is. It's actually a lot more average than people think. I think it's a lack of
Yeah,
information and understanding, really.
true, very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was impactful for me because I always tell people I still, even though I do the woo woo stuff, and I lovingly call it woo woo stuff,
Me
like
too.
I embrace that term, but I'm into all these sorts of things, and I talk to the departed and all this stuff. I have a very, and you know this about me, but like I have a very still analytical part to my brain that kind of gets in there. And I want spirit always, I think I said to spirit, like as I started doing this, like, you know, give me what I would call validations of your presence, like things that I couldn't know otherwise that just go beyond the realm of just kind of guessing
Yeah, like
or
the evidential pieces
right.
that, yeah.
So that was really, I think, important even on my journey where I was like, not that I ever thought that I would, because I read on Facebook a lot where I'm just doing, through the comments and things like that. Like, so I can't see anyone's body language. I can't hear their voice or anything.
Yeah.
So I never really thought at that point that I was picking up on something like that subconsciously, and then I was getting information, again, unintentionally. Um, the thought had crossed my mind before when I was physically sitting with people and I could see them. I'm like, am I just maybe picking up on like body language and I don't know it? But again, some of the things that have come through,
Can
like you
can I
can't get.
ask you real quick too, like since you're on like that little thread.
Yeah.
How much of this do you think is telepathy?
Oh, interesting.
Even if, like you're saying, oh, I couldn't have picked up on this or whatever, how much of the information do you feel is possibly telepathy
Hmm.
and being tapped in? You know what I mean?
It's a good question. I think I know now when I do mediumship readings, like I can discern like that I feel a soul with me, and it's just a bit of a different feeling than I would say maybe telepathically getting information from somebody. It can feel somewhat similar in certain ways, because I think that spirit will kind of use that sort of channel that maybe telepathy also kind of goes through.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like the same machine, different setting. You know what I mean? So it can
Okay.
feel kind of similar. That's the best way I know how to kind
Yeah.
of describe that.
Well,
But
and also there's the like if you think about it, like sometimes I can kind of see it both ways because like telepathically maybe you are at a frequency where you're pulling, initiating that information forward, right? Like you're
yeah,
attracting it, right? So that puts you in front of whoever needs to be read in that moment. It's like magnetic, right? So you're pulling that in and you're bringing forward some very important sacred stuff.
mm,
And that can take on a feeling of how they felt about the person, right? Like, so it might
yeah,
feel like a different energy or something anyway. But then there's also the fact that I've had a million experiences where I've had spirits touch my hair and
right,
poke me and talk to me. And so like what then? Like I feel like that still doesn't necessarily what is that part, you know?
right. Yeah. It's interesting to kind of sit with all of that. I think again, for me, it's just like there's a differentiation for me between like feeling an actual energy in my space and maybe getting something excuse
Yeah.
me, telepathically from somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, I will say too, like I have had spirit many times now give me information that the person that I'm sitting with doesn't even know about.
Ah,
So for
yeah,
me,
that's a good point.
right. So for me, I'm kind of like, well, if it's not even in their head to begin with, you know what I mean? Like, I can't be pulling it from their awareness because they don't even know. I'll say something and then they'll come back maybe a few days later or a week later and be like, so I asked, this other family member or this person or whatever, or, you know, whatever it is. And you were right. Or they might not have even asked someone. Something might have just happened, like taken place, where
Yeah.
I'll mention something and then something will take place. Um, so so I think
Yeah.
that has kind of led me to it's not just pulling from someone's field or awareness. I think is
Unless it's like you're just tapped into their higher self and their higher self is so like all knowing, but
sure.
still, like I can see where you would like feel the differences there too. I
Yeah.
know that for me, like when I've sat down to do readings, it is definitely a balance because I am tapped in telepathically and I know I can hear people's thoughts a lot of times and this is not at will. I do not do this at will. This is not a disciplined skill. It's kind of like, do you know what scrying is?
Yeah.
Okay, I do that all the time too, and that is also not will. It's just one of those things
Yeah.
that I just am able to access and I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. Like it's just one of
Yeah.
those things that happens accidentally. So the telepathy for me when I'm sitting with a reading is kind of tricky because like I can pick up
Yeah.
on some of the thoughts and the wants and the feelings and I have to discern between that
Hmm.
and what the most probable path is that's coming forward or whatever the information and it can be a nice little balancing act. And for
Yeah.
me, that is sometimes why it can be such energetic work too and kind of taxing on our end because there is so much balancing happening.
Yeah, you definitely have to be discerning, I think, and
Yeah,
yeah, doing the balancing act. Because like you said, I can pick up on things just in people's awareness. Not the same for me as mediumship, but it
for
is something
sure.
that happens.
Yeah,
I think to add to what I said before, to what I said before, like it's just more obvious, I guess, to me that there's like a communication happening, like not between me and the person I'm sitting with, but me and this other
and
consciousness,
yeah, yeah,
Um, and it does, it just feels like we're communicating and we're connecting and there's a conversation happening and there's, a dialogue that's not like me and you were talking, but like in a way of like there is another presence that is with us in the room that,
Yeah.
it's just clear to me that this is a communication
Yeah.
that's going on,
Well, and I'd like to use a little bit of my own private story with that. I recently, this was recently actually, like maybe what, 2 months ago. So you didn't know that I had a stepbrother that had committed suicide a couple years ago. And and I he was like in life, he was fun, he was amazing, like he was all the things, loved him to death. He looked up to me so much. Like there was such a great connection between us. And so in death, he was always bugging me. Like, hey, I'm here. Like it's just the same energy, but you didn't know that. And you
yeah.
had no idea, like it's not something we'd ever talked about. And one day you were like, I have this energy. And what was the song? It was Afro Man.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it was
right. That
Afro
was you.
Man. Yeah, it was me. So it was like, he was like, and you just randomly, like, you just messaged me without even knowing that the connection was to me.
Yeah.
And he had actually been bugging me for like 3 days solid straight at that point. And he does it off and on. Like, he's just like, I'm your annoying brother. I'm right here. But like, like,
Yeah.
but also I love you to death and whatever. So anyway, he'd been like on my ass for a few days, and I'm like, dude, come on. And so like, and so like a lot of times I just kind of blow him off, which is what you do to brothers. You just whatever,
Yeah.
right? So and just for context, I practice really firm rules when it comes to my mediumship. A lot of times I'm like, I don't want to talk, I don't want to talk, and I don't until I'm ready, like period. And so like I try to keep the volume down as much as possible when I'm focused on other things. So you had messaged me randomly. I'm going to say randomly. And you're like, I don't know, but there's this energy and it's playing this song and I fucking hate this song. And like it was
Oh,
bugging
yeah.
you. Do you remember
Yeah.
that? You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I
Because
can't
I
stand
don't
him.
like the song. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then there was something else that you said too, though. There were a few things that you said. And I was like, I just started laughing and I was like, oh. I said, I know exactly who you're talking to. And then I started to tell you, and you were like, what? I didn't even know any of this stuff. And I was like, I know. That's what makes
Yeah.
this so great. And so, like, he had showed you like my jacked up Jeep that I used to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he was showing you like what kind of ladies man he was, pretending to be a player, even though he wasn't a player. Like all the things he was showing you all the things, and I was like, dude, you got my little brother like on the line with you. And he was doing it, he was going out of his way to get my attention through you because I was blowing him off. I was
Yeah.
ignoring him
Yeah.
for days. And so he's
Yeah.
like, fine, bitch, I'll go through your best buddy. I'll go through one of your friends to get your attention. And then you brought all that through, and I was dying laughing. It was so
That is
funny.
hysterical. I honestly forgot about most of that. I remember that we had a conversation where I said something and there was a person that I wasn't aware of in your field that came through. I didn't even remember, honestly, April, who it was to you until you said it. Now it all came back as you said it. But
Yeah,
yeah, and I remember the Afro Man thing, but I didn't connect it with you. But that was you. Yeah,
yeah.
that totally escaped me. So that's funny, actually, like hearing that back and like reliving that. Funny enough, that wasn't even too long ago. But like I said, I don't hold on to some of the information.
Yeah,
So
no, and I get that too because a lot of times I'll see information in readings and then maybe I might sit down with another person like a year later and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I think you said that once before." And I'm like, "I did?" And like
yeah,
I'm like, "I don't know." Like some that once we channel it through, it kind of escapes us.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I always say too, because it's not really mine. It's not my thoughts, my memories, my messages. Like so,
right.
I just, by the nature of it filtering through me, of course, I remember some things, but a
Yeah.
lot of it I really don't. I've had people where, they've popped up in my space and they'll be like, oh my God, yeah, you did a reading for me and my mom came through
Yeah.
and I have no recollection. I'm like, really?
You're
Like
like, "Oh
I might
yeah."
remember the person, like
Yeah.
I remember your name or you, but like,
You remember there was an event, but you might not remember much else.
Right. Kind of
Yeah.
like this, where I remember there was an event, but
Yeah.
not much else. But
Yeah.
that's hysterical, though. I remember, and yeah, I don't like that Afro Man song.
No, and he loved Afro Man. Like he was
Yeah,
such a white little thug. It was hilarious.
yeah.
Like he was something else.
Well, I think that's kind of how he came through it. I don't think I said that specifically, but I think if I remember correctly, now that we're talking about it, and now that's coming back a little bit, like he kind of came through with that type of personality,
He did
that,
because I remember he was showing you like the ladies' man stuff. And I
yeah,
was like, oh, get the fuck out of here. That is so, he's something else, I swear.
yeah. Well, I think what he told me too was he was saying like something like I really liked woman, and like
Yeah.
there was like this ladies' man thought. Uh, so that's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for reminding me of that.
Well,
That's fun.
no, it's good. It's good context for kind of like some of the stuff we're talking about. Like this is
Yeah.
not stuff you even knew about me
No.
and like what, yeah, and the message still got delivered, even though like you're just again, you're just the medium.
Yeah. Yeah, just I'm the middle point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I do love in that story too that you were ignoring him, so he found a way. He
It was
found
no,
a
it's
way.
hilarious. And
Yeah.
it's exactly how he was in life. Oh, okay. You want to ignore me? And then I'm gonna go do all these other things to get your attention. So
Yeah.
it
He's like,
worked.
listen, April, I know that your good friend can hear me, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go over there.
Yeah. Whatever
That's
it takes to
yeah,
get my sister to stop being a bitch to me and like pay attention to me. So
I
it's
love
pretty
it.
funny shit. So okay. Well, I have another question for you.
Cool. Let's do it.
Speaking of house rules,
Mm,
let's go over that a little bit before we wrap up
yeah.
a little bit. And yeah,
Yeah.
do you have time to go over some of that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that's important too, actually,
Yeah.
especially if someone's like developing or I get this question a lot from people who like are just started.
I
So
feel
house
like
rules,
this is the section for newbies. Like right
yeah.
here, if we had a timestamp, it would
Yeah.
be advice for the newbies. Here you go.
Ab- Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can everyone who's just starting, my lovely newbies,
Yeah.
you can set boundaries with spirits, and
Mhm.
spirit in general, right? So if you find that like they're coming to you and waking you up in the middle of the night, like you can say, don't do that. I have
You were so
a
nice.
yeah, you might say something different.
I would say something totally different, but
Yeah.
Lee is very, he's a little more gentle than I am.
Yeah, but um but yeah, you can have boundaries. So I just have kind of an overarching sort of like overarching house rules, right? That like the rules are like do not wake me up while I'm sleeping, because my sleep is sacred. I need that. Um Even before like I fall asleep and everything, like I don't really sometimes they will and it's okay, but if I'm like on the cusp of sleep or whatever, don't come in then. That's just my rule. Don't I don't like them to touch me. So sometimes in readings, like I'll allow them to let me feel like brief kind of physical things if it helps get across a message or a validation. But outside of a reading, like I don't, I don't want to be touched or anything like that. Um, I, I do say too, don't show me yourself in full form because I feel like even after all these years, that might freak me out if I see a random man standing at the end of my bed. Like they show
Mhm.
themselves in like little lights and little orbs. I'm fine with that. That's okay. But like in like mist and stuff like
I
that,
was gonna say, do you see the silhouettes ever? Like where it's kind of like a partial.
occasionally I don't love that either. But I do I'm okay enough with it where I'm like,
Okay.
okay, if you really need to get yourself across that way, then okay. But please no full body experiences. And and just basically like, only those who serve the light, are
Yeah,
welcome.
right. And I
And I
think
don't
I was gonna
oh
say, I
go ahead.
think because of who we are, we naturally attract those anyway.
Right. And I don't put too much, honestly, emphasis on that or anything. It's just an
Yeah,
intention that I hold and I kind of just leave it at that. But
yeah.
um, so yeah, you can set boundaries though with spirit and I do all the time. And it's funny, I actually have a new soul that has kind of come in and really validated her presence lately. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, I won't say who, but I will say she's really come in and validated her presence
Oh
and
yeah, even through me.
yeah, even through you,
Yeah.
even yeah, through like the most imaginative things you can think of.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Because I
But
even was like, thanks. This is all your fault. She's bugging me now
you're
for
like,
2 days.
this is your fault.
This is
Yeah.
your fault.
Yeah. Um, and even with that, like I've kind of not that I feel like that soul has like crossed any boundaries, but I've
No.
established the same kind of things where I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, you're if you're here and you're hanging out, like house rules, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think it's important because I do get people sometimes that come to me and they're talking to me in the middle of the night. What do I do? And I'm like, have you told them to stop? And
Yeah.
they'll
Have
be
you
like,
told them
I
to
can,
shut up?
yeah, like, and they're like, I can do that. Yeah, of course you can do that. Like,
Yeah.
tell them not now. But spirit sometimes needs a bit of that direction from us, I think, because
Yeah.
otherwise you might be talking to grandma at 3 in the morning. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Which
so
happens to be one of the times we are more um, open to those energy pathways.
yeah,
But because we're having a human experience, our sleep is also very sacred and needed too.
yeah,
Um, so I know that I tend to get bombarded at night. Um,
yeah, yeah,
and I'm fine with it most of the time, but when I get woke up at like 3 and 4 in the morning, I'm like, get the fuck out. Oh my God. Like I'm not nice about it like Lee is. Lee's nice.
yeah.
I'm like, get the fuck out of my room right now.
Get
I'm
out.
like, I don't want to talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it. I think there have been moments too where I've been a bit more startled with it, so I've been a lot more firm with it, where I'm like, okay, you need to leave now,
yeah.
like, but typically that does not happen. I think there's been like I can count on one hand, and nothing that was like harmful or anything like that, but maybe just a bit more startling by the nature of it and how I interpreted it, and like if there's a soul touching you at again 3 in the morning and waking you up like that can be a little startling. So
Yeah, it
you know
can. Especially like you said, if you're kind of new to opening up these avenues. And another thing, this is not to scare anyone, but like I tend to attract very traumatized souls. I think we were just talking about that the other day. And so a lot of the souls that I specifically get um, left in a very graphic way. And I am okay with it because I'm just so used to it. I've just been doing it for so long. But if I was brand new at this,
yeah.
that would be completely fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
And so even if you are new to this and there's showing you visions or things that are just too graphic in nature, you can tell them to stop. You can say,
Yeah.
you can come to me, but you're not going to come to me like that. I don't need all these nasty details. Like this is not how I'm going to bring forward your message. So
Yeah.
you can be very specific when it comes to things like that too.
Yeah. Or you can even just say like, I mean, if you don't want it at all, that's cool. But like, say, show it to me in a different way.
Right.
Like not with the graph. I even have a thing with spirit now where I know a lot of mediums. They will kind of go into a lot of like the details about how someone passed, like very specific, kind of like, oh, it was a clot that came undone or whatever, and then it traveled in the body in a way. I tell spirit like now at this point because I felt like I would get certain information like that for a while, and then I felt like I was kind of carrying it around in my everyday life, like it was leaching into my everyday life, where then I was becoming almost paranoid that like people that I knew were gonna, well, what if
Oh
something like this
yeah.
happens to
Yeah.
these people that like
Yeah.
even though I know that everyone only goes when it's their time, but the human part of me was having a hard time with it.
Right,
It was
because our ego likes to latch on to shit and obsess and create stories that aren't even
yeah.
real.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's what I was doing. And I was like, how do I kind of remedy this? And I was like, you know what, Spirit, unless there really needs to be a message like that for the healing of the person I'm sitting with that comes across in terms of like how someone passed. I'm okay with that if you want to tell me in that scenario. But otherwise, like if it's not really needed, you don't have to get into how you die or how you passed and
Yeah.
all that. And now, honestly, what I find it kind of funny because I feel like I echo this so much now, but like they'll tell me if they passed kind of unexpectedly or if it was sudden or if it was not. And a
Yeah.
lot of the times that's about the amount of information that I'll get around the passing. Sometimes more does come through if it has to, but like if it does not have to or whatever,
Yeah.
it just goes like, yeah, I passed
If
10
it's
minutes.
like not a piece that's needed for validation, then it just can be skipped over.
Right. And that works for me now. Like that's a boundary that I've created with things, So, and then they'll give me a lot of validation in other way, like different memories that, experiences that were shared, things that are going on in the client's life. But I realized that it didn't have to look like that part where they passed and everything. And so, I mean, that's an example of a boundary that I still hold now, where I'm like, unless it's needed for the highest healing here, I
Yeah.
don't really want to have to carry it around in my human self, So, like, you don't have to give me all the details, and they respect it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Um,
like that because this is one area that you and I are very different. You have always been very firm in your boundaries when it comes to I don't want to see you. I don't want to have you touching me. I don't want any of those experiences because you're, I think, gentle and sensitive enough that you know that it's fragile for you, right? In that
right.
way. And I'm the complete opposite. I'm like, and so just for context too, psychic mediums can see with their mind's eye, but I actually see with my physical eyes, just like I'm seeing Lee right now. And so I see full body things sometimes. I don't see full body very often. I will say that, but I do see faces and glasses and I get touched and do all the things. And for me, I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it unless I'm sleeping at like 3 in the morning, then I'm not fine with it.
Right.
But like I'm fine with it. And to the point that if it's not happening, then I'm like, what the fuck? Why is it so quiet? What is going on here? Like,
Why
I'm
aren't I
like,
seeing
yeah,
anything?
I'm like, am I disconnected? Am I like out of touch? What happened? Like, where is
Yeah.
everybody? So I'm the complete opposite of Lee because then, like, yeah, so it's funny. It's interesting how we all show up different, and what are allowed and what are not allowed, So
Yeah. That is funny though. Yeah, you're much more open to that than I am. I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. And you're like, why aren't I seeing things? Like,
I'm like,
what's
why is it so quiet? Are you guys up to something? What's
wrong?
happening? This is
Yeah.
suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's and that's the beauty of it, I think, too, is that you can choose how you want to show up.
yeah,
And I will say just really quickly too, kind of like you, I do get souls that a lot of the time that have trauma is a big part of their story here in the physical. They always come to me and tell me that they're fine. It's
right.
not something that, they're like suffering as a soul or anything, but
No,
trauma was a big piece of that. So even with something like that, like I totally agree with what you said too about, like you can tell them, like, listen, this is a lot for my human. Like,
hmm,
if it's not needed, and I do that all the time, and they've been respectful about it. I can
yeah.
sense the trauma now, but it's not like I'm playing it out for myself in my head or anything like that. Like, so it can be really helpful.
Yeah, I will say that before I embraced my psychic mediumship at the age of 38, and I'm now 46, just so you guys know my age. Um, I there were many times that I felt violated
Mm.
because I was so bombarded and it terrified me. It scared me all the time. I was always scared. But that's because I didn't know that I was in the position of power
Yeah.
and that it was always about what I was allowing. And so it took me learning that to turn everything around.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. Like, because we are the power source for that, like what our experience is allowing and everything. I mean, my guides always tell me the same message. Like,
Right.
you have the most power over what what goes on for you in this sense,
Yeah.
so focus your energy there. And I've always found that helpful, just to be like, yeah, I'm in control of this. Like, spirit is with me in a way that I want spirit to be with me.
Yeah.
Um, so I agree. Yeah.
Good talk. Is there anything else you want to add for like a little suggestion or piece of advice or words of wisdom for anyone else that might be beginning their journey?
Sure. I'm gonna see if my new little spirit friend, as I as I call her, the one that has been guiding me, wants to put an idea in my head about this.
Yeah,
But
let's do that. Let's
because
let's hear.
yeah. Um, okay. All right, it's very actually similar to something that I would say, to be honest, but
Okay.
I guess since it is filtering through me too, right? But um, to to be aware of the things that kind of go on around you, and to ultimately trust in yourself and who you are, and not how others perceive you, not how you think others perceive you, because kind of like we just talked about, which is interesting, but like your power really lies with your authentic self. So
Yeah.
from that place, kind of observe and witness the things that are going on around you and open yourself up to receiving some of that. I think we can just as easily kind of close ourselves off to, the spirit magic around us, whatever you want to call that, and we can just as easily open ourselves to that. And when we open ourselves to it, we get so much more of it. So, um, I guess that's kind of two different things, but wrapped into one nice little present. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, and I
the
like that because it's still a practice because sometimes there might be a discomfort or maybe even a little bit of anxiousness when it's like, how do I open myself up to this? Is it gonna, am I gonna get overwhelmed? Like you don't really know what to expect. So again, it's just, it's always a balancing act. You're always taking self-inventory. You have to know that you are always in power. Like there's so many pieces to it, but I think that the more that people are genuinely themselves as opposed to what someone tells me it's supposed to look like, that's going to be where most of the magic is.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Like, so yeah, coming from that authentic kind of place that that we all have somewhere within us, and kind of leaving the rest, and then just experiencing it in the way that we're meant to experience it.
Yeah.
We're literally all just points of consciousness that are having a human experience. So
We're just little floating particles trying to figure this shit out.
we're trying to navigate this physical lane. So
Yeah, it's fun, huh?
it's interesting. It's a ride.
It's been a ride. I'm still like obsessing about my black eye.
Oh yeah,
It's almost gone now.
it
So,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost gone. But yeah, this is what happens when life beats the shit out of you.
No.
So, that's my story.
That's my story at the
That's
end.
my story, the end. Okay, so Lee, if someone wanted to find you on social media or book a reading with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Probably email right now. I feel like I've said this so much, but the website is still kind of a work in progress. Although my guides have been really on me to like get that get that settled. So I will let everyone know when that is settled. But probably email, which is Lee Walczak Vitality, all one thing, at gmail.com. You can get a hold of me on Facebook. There are some fake accounts floating around of me. I am only under facebook.com/Lee the Medium. I'm sure that it'll be in the show notes and stuff too. But
Yeah, it will.
um, on TikTok, I don't know exactly, if that's going to be around or not or what, but I'm only under at Lee Walczak, all one thing, no spaces, no underlines. Again, show notes. And then same thing on Instagram. Um, so either whatever works, whatever you feel drawn to, one of those ways is fine.
Okay. Well, you guys, you definitely want to hit Lee up. It's definitely an experience to get to sit down with Lee. And I don't think I've ever actually had a full experience with you now that I think about it, because
Yeah,
we're just like always day and day back and forth. And so,
yeah.
but even still, based on even my knowing of you over the last 5 years, I think you are very talented and
No,
you
thanks.
bring through amazing information. And I think anybody in the world that can have that experience with you should.
Oh, well, thank you.
So, thank you for being here with me today, for being back with me today.
Yeah, yeah.
But I guess I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. So, thank you again for being on here, and I'm sure we'll see you again as a co-host, a guest co-host again soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All righty. I'm gonna end it right here. So, bye, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you for joining Own Your Essence. I am beyond grateful to our guests for sharing their wisdom and to you, our listeners, for being part of this journey toward healing and empowerment. If today's conversation resonated with you, please feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this space with others who might need it. If you have questions, topic ideas, want to be a guest, or would like to work with me privately, send an email. I'd love to hear from you.